For the first time in modern history, something impossible is happening. For the first time, something that defies every headline, every stereotype, and every economic prediction of the last 30 years. More Poles are leaving the United Kingdom and Germany to return to Poland than are leaving Poland to go there. Think about that for a second. Let it sink in. For decades, the story of Europe was simple. It was a law of nature. It was a one-way street. If you were born in the East, you moved west. You went to London to pour coffee. You went to Berlin to build houses. You went to Dublin to drive trucks. That was the rule. The West was rich. The West was the destination. The East was just the waiting room. But now, the street has reversed. The traffic is coming back. And the reason isn't just nostalgia. It isn't just homesickness. It is cold, hard economics. And it is something else. Something that people in the West are terrified to talk about. Safety. We are witnessing a shift so profound that most people haven't even noticed it yet. We are watching the death of the old European order and the rise of a new powerhouse. This is the story of how the underdog became the wolf. This is the story of Poland. Chapter 2. The Starting Line. To understand why this is so shocking, you have to remember where this story began. You have to go back to 1989. The Iron Curtain falls. Communism collapses. And what was left behind? Ruins. Poland was bankrupt, truly bankrupt. Hyperinflation was running at nearly 600% a year. The shelves in the shops were empty. The factories were rusting. The infrastructure was a joke. The air was thick with smog and despair. If you looked at Poland in 1990, you saw a tragedy. Western economists looked at the data and predicted it would take 100 years to catch up to Germany. 100 years. But Poland did not want to wait a century. So they did something crazy. They chose pain. They implemented something called shock therapy, the Balcerowicz plan. Overnight, they tore up the communist rulebook. They stopped printing fake money. They let failing state companies go bust. They opened the borders to trade. It was brutal. We have to be honest about that. It was incredibly painful. Unemployment skyrocketed to 20%. Families lost their life savings. It was a national trauma. But it worked. While other post-communist countries dithered or fell into the hands of oligarchs, Poland built a real market. They took the medicine, and slowly, the patients started to recover. But nobody was paying attention, because in the 90s and the 2000s, Poland was just the cheap labor country. It was the place where you built a factory if you wanted to save money. It was the place that sent plumbers to fix British toilets. That was the image. That was the stereotype. But while the West was laughing at the jokes, Poland was grinding. They were building, and they were quietly becoming the engine of Europe. Chapter 3. The Green Island. Then came the test. The global financial crisis. The world melted down. Banks collapsed. Wall Street panicked. Countries like Greece and Italy and Spain were brought to their knees. Even Germany took a massive hit. But do you know what Poland's economy did in 2008? It grew. It was the only country in the European Union that did not go into recession. Not 1/4 of negative growth. They were called the Green Island, a spot of growth on a map of red ink. How? How did the poor neighbor outperform the rich masters? They made smart choices. They refused to join the euro currency. They kept the zloty. This meant they controlled their own destiny. When things got tough, their currency adjusted, keeping their exports competitive. It was a pressure valve that Italy and Greece didn't have. They were conservative. They were prudent. And while Western Europe spent the last 15 years stagnating, growing at 0% or 1%, Poland has been sprinting. This year, while Germany is flirting with recession, Poland is projected to grow around 3%. That might not sound like a lot, but in the economic world, that is the difference between life and death. And here is the wild part. Poland recently crossed a magic number. $1 trillion in GDP, adjusted for purchasing power. They are no longer catching up. They have arrived. Chapter 4. The concrete proof. But numbers on a spreadsheet are one thing. Reality is another. If you want to see why Poland is winning, you have to look at what they are building. In the West, specifically in the UK and Germany, infrastructure has become a nightmare. Look at the UK's HS2 railway project. It's a disaster. Billions over budget, years late, and eventually cancelled. Look at Berlin's new airport. It opened 9 years late. It was a laughingstock. The West seems to have lost the ability to build big things. There is too much red tape, too much bureaucracy, too little ambition. Now, look at Poland. They are planning the CPK, the Central Communication Port, a massive new transport hub between Warsaw and Lodz, one of the biggest airports in Europe, connected by a web of high-speed rail. Critics say it's too ambitious, but the Poles, they are pushing forward. They are building highways at a pace that is dizzying. If you drive across Poland today, you see fresh tarmac. You see modern service stations, you see tunnels and bridges. 20 years ago, Polish roads were a joke. Today, they are better than many roads in the UK or the US. It represents a mindset. The West is trying to maintain what it has. Poland is trying to create what it doesn't have yet. That hunger, that desire to build, is the difference between stagnation and growth. Chapter 5. The energy gamble. And speaking of building, there is one specific area where Poland outsmarted its neighbors: energy. For 20 years, Germany lectured the world. They shut down their nuclear power plants. They bet everything on wind, solar, and cheap Russian gas. They thought they were building a green utopia, but it was a trap. When the war started and the gas stopped flowing, the German industrial model collapsed. Their factories became too expensive to run. Poland, they saw the trap coming. They built the Baltic pipe to bring gas from Norway, bypassing Russia. And now, they are making the biggest bet of all: nuclear energy. While Germany was shutting reactors down, Poland signed massive deals with the Americans and the South Koreans to build new ones. They understand something the West forgot. Energy security is national security. You cannot run a modern economy on wishful thinking. You need power, reliable, constant power. By avoiding the ideological trap that Germany fell into, Poland has secured its industrial future. Chapter 6. The silent magnet. But money and concrete and power plants are only half the story. If you ask a Pole why they are moving back from London, or why they never left in the first place, they will mention the salary. Sure, but then they will tell you the real reason. They will tell you about the walk home. Imagine walking through a major city in Western Europe at 2 a.m. Paris, Brussels. Be honest. How do you feel? Are you relaxed, or are you watching your back? Are you clutching your phone a little tighter? Now, imagine Warsaw, or Krakow, or Gdansk. The feeling is different. The numbers back it up. Let's look at the homicide rate, the most accurate crime statistic we have. In Poland, the intentional homicide rate is roughly 0.7 per 100,000 people. 0.7. That is one of the lowest rates on the planet. It is lower than the UK. It is lower than France. It is drastically lower than the United States. Poland has become safer than the countries it used to look up to. And for a family, for parents raising children, that matters more than GDP. That matters more than a slightly higher number on a paycheck. You can't put a price on the freedom to walk the streets without fear. And this is where the conversation gets uncomfortable, because you have to ask, why? Why is Poland so safe? Chapter 7. The third rail. If you ask the media, they will give you a simple answer. They will say it is because Poland has less immigration. They will say it is a homogeneous society. And yes, historically, that is true. High social trust often exists in societies where people share a common culture, a common history, and common values. It is easier to follow the rules when everyone agrees on what the rules are. But it is not the whole truth, because recently, Poland has taken in millions of people. Since the war began, millions of Ukrainians have crossed the border. There are immigrants from Asia, from India, working in Uber, in IT, in delivery, and yet, crime has not spiked. The streets are still safe. So it isn't just about zero immigration, it is about who comes in, and it is about the rules. In Poland, there is a sense that the law is still the law. The police are not paralyzed by political correctness. If you break things, if you steal, if you are violent, there are consequences. The prisons are not hotels. The justice system, while it has its problems, is not a revolving door. There is very little tolerance for what they call antisocial behavior, public drinking, vandalism, harassment. In many Western cities, these things have become background noise. People just accept them. In Poland, they do not. The social contract is still intact. And yes, you heard that right. The country that was once a communist police state is now the bastion of ordered liberty. While the West feels increasingly chaotic, Poland feels uncalm. And that calm is a magnet. Chapter 8. The Wallet Paradox. Before we continue to the final part, if you are enjoying this deep dive, and if you want to understand the shifting sands of our world, please hit the like button. It really helps us break through the algorithm. And subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Okay, let's talk about your wallet. Because there is a myth that needs to be busted. People say, sure, Poland is safe, but the wages are low. You earn 4 times as much in London. 10 years ago, that was true. Today, it is a lie. Yes, the nominal number, the raw amount of euros or pounds, is still higher in the West. But you do not eat euros, you do not live in pounds. You live on purchasing power. Look at the cost of living. Rent in London is astronomical. Energy bills in Germany have exploded. Taxes in France are crushing. A young professional in London might earn £3,000 a month, but after rent, transport, and bills, they are left with almost nothing. They are surviving, not living. Now take that same professional in Warsaw. They might earn $2,000 equivalent, but their rent is half. Their energy is cheaper, their services are affordable. At the end of the month, the Pole in Warsaw has more disposable income than the Brit in London. They can eat out at restaurants. They can go on vacation. They can save for a house. The quality of life has flipped. This is why they are returning. They aren't coming back to poverty. They are coming back to prosperity. They are trading a cramped, expensive, unsafe apartment in the West for a modern, comfortable life in the East. The economic incentive has reversed. Chapter 9. The Shifting Axis. But there is one more layer to this, and this is geopolitical. Poland isn't just getting richer, it is getting stronger, literally. While Western Europe has spent decades cutting military budgets, relying on the Americans to protect them, Poland is arming itself to the teeth. They are building what will likely be the strongest land army in Europe. Hundreds of tanks from South Korea, Apache helicopters from the US, massive artillery systems. They are spending 4% of their GDP on defense. That is double the NATO target. Why? Because they remember history. They know what happens when you are weak. They know that you cannot have a strong economy if you cannot defend your borders. And this military strength, combined with economic growth, is changing the power dynamics of Europe. For 50 years, the axis of power was Paris and Berlin. They made the decisions. But now, Berlin is weak. Their energy model is broken. Their industry is struggling. Paris is divided and paralyzed by social unrest. And Warsaw is rising. The center of gravity in Europe is shifting east. Poland is becoming the leader of the eastern flank. They are the ones warning about Russia. They are the ones pushing for security. And the Americans know it. Washington looks at Europe, and they see one country that actually pays its bills and takes defense seriously. Poland is no longer the junior partner. They are a player. Chapter 10. The Conclusion. So, is this a fairy tale? Is Poland paradise? No, absolutely not. They have huge problems. Their population is aging fast, faster than almost anywhere else. Who will do the work in 20 years? They have a housing shortage in the big cities. Their politics are incredibly polarized. The country is split down the middle between liberals and conservatives. And they live in a dangerous neighborhood. The war in Ukraine is right next door. That is a constant shadow. But if you look at the trend lines, if you look at the trajectory, it is undeniable that Poland is winning. They have done what everyone said was impossible. They transitioned from a broken communist state to a high-income, safe, and dynamic democracy. And they did it in one generation. The West is currently having a crisis of confidence. People in Germany and the UK feel like the best days are behind them. They are pessimistic. But in Poland, there is still that energy, that hunger. There is a belief that tomorrow will be better than today. And that optimism, that drive, is the most valuable resource a country can have. For centuries, Poland was the victim of history, crushed between empires, wiped off the map. But those days are over. Poland is no longer a place you leave. It is a place you go to. And perhaps, just perhaps, the West could learn a thing or two from the East. Thanks for watching. Let me know in the comments. Have you visited Poland recently? Did you feel the difference? Or do you think this growth is a bubble that is about to burst? I read every comment. See you in the next one.